Man, this year's NBA playoffs continue to be one of the best that I've ever seen in my lifetime, but also just one of the best I've seen like in the last probably 10 years. And it's crazy to think that we have 4 teams that are not unexpected if you actually watch basketball and you actually like basketball, but unexpected from a casual fan standpoint. We have Indiana versus New York on the East Coast, and then we have the T-Wolves in Minnesota versus OKC. That's just crazy to hear. Like, if you told somebody, if you went back in the day, maybe like 8 years ago, and told somebody Indiana is going to be playing New York in the Eastern Conference Finals and Minnesota is going to be playing Oklahoma City in the Western Conference Finals, they'd probably laugh at you. And it's crazy to see this, and it's great to see this. It's great for the league. I hate when these dumb takes that are always talking about, oh, it's not. I mean, don't get me wrong. Based on the cities and locations, it might not be the sexiest matchup in the world, but who cares? If you like basketball, if you like hoops, this is what you want to see. Especially when people complain about super teams, people complain about these teams constantly going to the finals year after year and all of that. Parity, right? That's a thing you hear about as well. There's no parity in the league. I think this might be a hot take, but I think this is a period in the league. This is an era in the league with the most parity that the league has ever seen. It has to be. Because even just thinking about the inception of the league all the way up to even the 90s, even to early 2000s, the 2010s, there was always 1 to 2 teams that was the clear dominating force, right? You had the Celtics at one point with Bill Russell, and then even more so afterward with Larry Bird. You had the Showtime Lakers. You had the Lakers even before that with Wilt Chamberlain and Jerry Jerry West. And I mean, although they didn't win, they still kept going to the finals. I mean, they won one, but their record wasn't the greatest. After that, you have Chicago Bulls, Michael Jordan, 6 championships. So it's always either been the Lakers, the Celtics. We'll throw in the Bulls because I want to say they're probably the 3rd team with the most. I believe it goes Celtics, Lakers, and then the Bulls. Celtics with 18, Lakers with 17, Bulls with 6. So, and then after that, it's kind of like you may have teams that won 3, teams that won 2 or 1, and then you still have teams that have never won one. 2 of the teams in the conference finals right now haven't won one. I believe it's Minnesota and Indiana. They have not won a chip. Their franchise hasn't won a chip. And then the other 2 haven't won a chip within like the last half century. So it's great to see that for the league. It's great to see these small market teams that are finally utilizing their scouts, utilizing their front office to make smart decisions, and then now you see the fruit of their labor. To reiterate, we are currently about to see a team win a championship that either hasn't won one ever, which is crazy after almost, not nearly, but almost 100 years of basketball, or they haven't won a championship since the 70s, or even before that. So I think that's really amazing to see. It's really great for the league, and hopefully we continue to see that trend happen. I mean, you can argue it started back in 2019 with the Raptors, right? You have a front office make a great decision that, granted, at the time, maybe we all didn't think. I'm sure there were some people out there, and obviously Toronto fans, who are going to root for their team no matter what and whoever gets traded there. But I'm just basically saying that I don't know if anybody predicted that they would win the championship, but they made a smart decision. They got one of the best players in the league, and you see what the results were. But they also had a great roster there for Kawhi when he got there. So you can argue it started there. Now we're seeing this trend where for the last 7 years, and this is crazy, like I said, nearly almost 100 years of the NBA, this is the first time in history ever where for the past 7 years there's been a different champion every year. And if you don't believe me, we can go down the list. I mean, you can look it up yourself, but off the top of my head, 2019 was the Raptors, 2020 was the Lakers, 2021 was, that was the Bucks, 2022 was the Warriors, 2023 was the Nuggets, 2024 was the Celtics, and now it's about to be whoever comes out of these 2 conference finals and whoever wins the finals, right? So this has to be the era in the NBA with the most parity that we have ever seen, which this was something I was kind of already alluding to in my, not even alluding to, I verbatim said it, but I touched on it in my last video that this has to be the most parity in the league, one. And then two, I think part of that is because I think this is the most talent that we've ever had all at once in the league. I feel like it might be. That might be a hyperbolic statement, but when you just look at the talent that is in the league is way too talented. I think we're far gone from, and maybe not even far gone, but I think we might be done with the era of maybe just one, where there was one player who was currently the best player in the league. I mean, there's always going to be a current best player in the league, but there might be a shift every year. I just don't see where it's going to be the same thing where, like, Michael Jordan was dominating everybody for years. LeBron was dominating everybody for years. Larry Bird, Magic, dominating everybody for years. Like, I don't see that happening anymore. I see it's like there's just way too many great players, and then whoever's front office can put together a great roster around them to really accentuate the talents that they have. Because when you look at these rosters are very well constructed. And don't get me wrong, most championship teams, maybe not most, but a lot of championship teams are teams that are constructed very well. But when we look at it historically, most of them weren't really. I mean, when the league first started, and we can't really hold this against them, right? Because it's not like they had all the science or all the, analytics in the world or things of that nature. It was just pure basketball at that point. But when we look when the league started, and there was only 8 teams. For the most part, it was like, okay, we have Bill Russell. We're winning 11 championships. You know what I'm saying? We have Wilt Chamberlain. We're going 62 and 20 this year, Like, it's just one of those things. It's like, now we're at a point where, and this is no shade to, like, any of the great players, anything like that. But, for example, this is on a micro level. When we look at even just the athleticism in the league, Dominique Wilkins was one of the greatest dunkers. He's still one of the greatest dunkers of all time, but he was like the best dunker, arguably the best dunker of his time. But there are people who are on NBA benches right now who can do all of those same dunks. Again, and that's no shade to him. It just shows how much we have progressed as players, as science progresses, as we figure out new ways to make our bodies be more healthy or how to have more efficient training and things of that nature. Players just get better. We look at somebody like Joel Embiid, he's not necessarily the first big man to have skills, right? But when we look at the skills that he does have, he's just clearly different from the centers of past, right? Where most of them didn't have the greatest offensive skills. They didn't have dribbling skills. They didn't shoot. The most that they may have had was post work, right? Like, because we look at somebody like Hakeem. Hakeem was very, very great offensively, very skilled in the post, and he could shoot well. He could shoot the mid-range well. He could shoot a post fadeaway very well, things of that nature. But, like, he wasn't shooting threes. He wasn't doing sham gods and, like, crossing people up. Not to say that that's indicative of, like, you being a great player, but I'm just saying we're seeing an era now where we have 6'10 people, 6'11, 7-footers, 7'5"ers, if we look at Wemby, who are doing these things. They're basically moving like guards, just in bigger bodies. So I just think the league is getting so talented that you need to be cognizant of who you draft. You need to be more cognizant of what players you're putting on your roster. You need to be more cognizant of players you're trading for, not just making moves. And many of these many of these teams, many of these front offices just haven't made a lot of smart moves historically. And that's why it's always crazy. It was always crazy to me seeing fans get mad at players for leaving these small market teams for either bigger market teams or just better situations, but they never have the front office take accountability for the decisions that they make. Like Kevin Garnett his career was basically in purgatory because the Timberwolves were just not. Granted, it's Minnesota, so like, who can you trade for? How many people are going to come sign in Minnesota? I understand that, but you can still make smart decisions, right? You can still try to maximize your roster. You can still try to maximize the potential of your star player. And so that kind of brings me to Sam Presti, right? Just to use one example, Sam Presti, he played the long game, and that's what a lot of people need to start doing. They need to start actually investing the millions and or billions of dollars that they have for their team every year and put them into the scouts that go and look at these high school students, these college students, these overseas players, and really take time to figure out. Granted, it's easier said than done. I know a lot of drafting is based off projections and perceived ability, because you can always draft somebody and think, oh wow, they look amazing in college, they look amazing in high school, they look amazing overseas, and they come to the NBA and they're just not as good, right? But I just feel like there could be more effort in that, and we're seeing how the effort is playing out in these 4 teams that are currently on their way to the finals, right? And it's not, like I said, I'm not putting it all on drafting. Some of it is trading, right, as well. Trading, making smart trades. But yeah, back to Sam Presti, trading for all these picks. And at the time, people were like, what is he doing, man? What is he doing? And honestly, to be fair, I guess there's a possibility where you do trade for all these top picks, lottery picks, things of that nature, and then you draft all these players, and then some of these players just don't pan out. That's a possibility. But I feel like if you're smart about who you're selecting, if you actually spend time with looking at these players, understanding how they play, understanding what their weaknesses and strengths are, you can build a team like OKC. Or you can make smart trades and have a team like the Minnesota Timberwolves or the New York Knicks, because they also made some big trades and signings rather. Indiana made great trade in getting Halliburton, as we can see, as it panned out. Great how it panned out with drafting Miles Turner. I just think drafting smart and trading smart and signing smart is what all these teams that are currently not in the spot where they want to be is the way to go. Especially with, like I said, all this talent in the league, all the talent that is still coming into the league. I'm excited to see how Cooper Flagg plays and turns out. Obviously, I'm hearing that he's supposed to be like a generational talent, so we'll see how that turns out. But yeah, long gone is the time of I have 2 really good players on my team and then everybody else is just on the roster. Like, you cannot have a Kobe and Shaq type of roster and expect it to work out in this league. You have to know who your star is. Obviously, you need a star. You have a second option, and then maybe you have a third, or you just have players who can step up for that third. But you have to really be cognizant of who those players are. You have to draft well. You have to think about who you are getting. You have to maximize your roster. Get coaches who make good, smart decisions. Like, it's just, there's way too much out here now to just solely rely on 1 or 2 players. And that's the problem you've seen with the Lakers. I talked about it in my last video. You have LeBron and you have Luka, but you really have no depth outside of that. You have some players who can defend well, but maybe aren't that great on the offensive side. You have literally no rim protection, and then you have 3 players, granted, like I said, depending too much on your 2 players. And then on top of that, your 2 players who can't really play defense. LeBron is a cone at this point. That's my GOAT, but he's a cone at this point defensively. Luka has always not been great defensively. And then Austin Reeves is also not great defensively. So you can't have 3 cones and no rim protection. It's just not going to work out. So hopefully they address those problems in the offseason. But yeah, I just think we're long past that point. You need your star, obviously. You need your second option. But then you need to know who your 6 through 9 is, 6 through 10. You need to know who your, outside of your 2 options, the other 3 players in the starting 5. What are they going to do? What are they going to offer to the team? We can see that with every single team that is in the conference finals right now. They all have depth, from Minnesota to OKC to Indiana and New York. They all have depth. And it's really showing that outside of you need depth for your team. And again, like I said, this has always been, you always need well-constructed rosters, but we can also see in history that there's times where it's just we have one really good player, we have a Bill Russell, we have a Wilt Chamberlain, we have an Oscar Robertson, we're going to go win. We have a Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, we're going to go win, right? That is just not the case anymore. But yeah, outside of that, I've kind of beaten that horse already. But outside of that, I think it's really just also indicative of the end of an era. Well, I guess if I'm talking about a new era, it is the end of an era, right? Our goats are getting out of here, man. They're getting packed up. I'm not gonna lie to you. I hate to see it, man. I hate this is kind of a side note, kind of just like on a sillier point, but it's got to be crazy to see your goat get old is so crazy. Because then you start thinking about how you're getting old. But like seeing LeBron barely get off the ground for dunks, it'd be like, damn. It'd be like, damn. But yeah, LeBron is aging out. KD is aging out, even though he's still playing very well, still playing very spectacularly. But he's getting up there. Steph is still playing spectacularly, but he's getting up there. It's just out with the old and in with the new, man. The new stars are coming in. Anthony Edwards is going to be a star. I'm rooting for him to win the championship. But if OKC keeps playing like the well-oiled machine that they've been for the majority of the season, it might be tough. That first game was kind of rough for Minnesota, but I think most of that just had to do with, well, great defense, don't get me wrong, but I don't expect some of the shooters on the team to go shoot the same exact way that they did, what was that, Tuesday night? Because they were shooting abysmally, I'm not going to lie to you. So hopefully that changes tonight. But yeah, we're seeing the new stars. We're seeing the new upcoming stars. I also think we're shifting back to the rise of the guard, man. The guard is seems to be back, and not that it ever left style, but just when you have people like a Joel Embiid or a Nikola Jokic or a Giannis or even like a LeBron, just these bigger players who have been dominating for so long, even a KD, there hasn't really been. Obviously, Steph was in the conversation, but it was kind of just Steph. And obviously, you have like Damian Lillard and things of that nature, but we can all acknowledge that Steph he's been the best point guard for like the last 8 years, maybe like 10 years. 10 years, because they won the championship in 2015, right? So yeah. But yeah, we're looking at literally the star matchups for the most part in both these conference finals are guard matchups. You got Ant versus Shea. And I'm not entirely sure off the top of my head if Shea is classified as a shooting guard or a point guard, so I don't want to say that shooting guards are coming back per se, but I think of him more as a shooting guard. So, and I know Ant's a shooting guard. So you kind of have a battle of shooting guards on the West. And then on the East, you have a battle of point guards. You got Jalen Brunson and Tyrese Halliburton. And I want to add that I don't know how. I've always liked Halliburton in his game. I don't know how these players really go around thinking that he's overrated. He's definitely showing the league and showing these players why he is not overrated. And I hope he goes to the finals, because any of the matchups that would come out into the finals would, for me personally, would be exciting to see. But I think the most exciting ones to see would be the Timberwolves versus the Knicks, just because we get to see who really won the trade between them, the trades for Karl Anthony Towns and Julius Randle and things of that nature. And then if it's Timberwolves and Indiana, these are two teams that both of their franchises have not won a championship yet. So that would be interesting to see. OKC, and now that I think about it, technically OKC hasn't won a championship either. They won when they were the Seattle Supersonics, but technically they're different. They rebranded. They're a different team. So I kind of think of them as a team that hasn't won a championship either. But if OKC goes and plays the Pacers, I think that would be exciting. If they play the Knicks, I think that would be exciting as well. So yeah, man, this is just the most parity that the league has ever seen. An era with the league is just too talented, and I do not say that in a derogatory manner. That is great. If you're a fan of basketball, that's a great thing to hear and a great thing to say. But yeah, man, if you agree with any of the points I've made, you can let me know in the comments below, or if you disagree as well, you can share your opinions. Like, comment, and subscribe for more. I'll always be talking about random stuff, be talking about whether it be sports or politics or just anything else that be on my music. So, but yeah. Again, if you agree, disagree, feel free to comment below. Let me know. Tell me some of your thoughts. But whether you think I'm far behind or way ahead of the curve, I'm miles away. Thank you.